Hi all, welcome back to Line Bites. Before we start this episode, I just want to say one of the weirdest things I've ever experienced on the bank happened this weekend whilst filming. So stay tuned throughout this episode to see exactly what happened. Once you've finished watching it, let me know down in the comments below what you think happened. I'll be really interested to see what you guys think. Anyway, without further ado, let's get the music rolling and into today's episode. It's really difficult to admit when we have a problem, or even an addiction. My addiction is one I will never be able to escape from. And truth be told, I don't want to. My name's Jim, and I'm a fishing addict.
Here we go!
Apologies for the wind. It's bit of mega easterly blowing directly into our corner, but we're down at Drayton for 48 hours, and it's taken a little while to get going.
Before we go any further, I want to take you back to Storm Arwen last November in 2021. What should have been almost guaranteed winter bites turned into a war of attrition, angler against the elements. Now in 2022, and with March the 21st signalling an end to winter and the start of spring, my friends Betty, Alan and Jamie persuaded me to head back to Drayton to try and get a final winter bend in the rod. Having managed to secure pegs they felt would give us the best chance, memories of epic summer sessions of 20 or more fish each, and a quick check of the diary, it didn't take much convincing to head back to the Midlands for another session. This time I was going to show no mercy. I began preparing meticulously, leaving no stone unturned. I started by opening my weather app. I could see we were in for large easterly winds, gusting at over 20 miles an hour, and high pressure. Not ideal for the time of year, but not impossible to have a good session. My approach was going to be simple, zigs and solid bags. Drayton is synonymous for both of these approaches. I began preparing bait, soaking corning casters in water that I diluted with maple syrup and Himalayan rock salt. I then liquidised corn, blending Bosch Bait's Kraken analogy into coarse crumb. This would make my zig mix, along with some 2mm and 8mm pellets. Along with some other items, I felt certain this cloud of attraction would be enough to get any fish moving through the mid layers onto my peg. The order of the day for the bottom would be solid bags, fished over a mix of Allergy and Kraken in 14 and 18mm. Favouring the offset and hexgate pattern hooks from Hobo Armour, I began tying up my old faithful German rigs. These would be complemented by an array of pop-ups from Bosch Baits. I trimmed these down to perfection, light enough to waft just above my bag mix, but heavy enough not to pop up away from it. This was the perfect, critically balanced bait. The plan for the bottom was to recast the solid bags every 30 to 40 minutes, until I got a bite. Once I'd got this bite, I'd then swap both solid bags to whichever wafter the fish were honing in on.
Coming up about 4:30 now, and we're getting this really nice evening sun onto us. What we've done is we've stuck out 2 zigs on each rods, and we're just spotting over them every 10-15 minutes and changing the depth every 20-30 minutes just to see where we can find the fish.
That brings us up to about 0100 hours on the Friday night, and where I rudely interrupted the video. Let's hit play and see how we get on.
It's taken a little while to get going, I must admit, but now we're into darkness, the bites are starting to come, and hey, we're kicking off with this lovely 17-pounder. There you go. So, we've been here since about 3 o'clock. I've been here since about 3 o'clock. I rocked up late. I'm here with my brother and a couple of mates, Alan, who you remember from the last session, and Jamie, and we're down on the boards again to try and get some revenge for November, and I've opened the account already. So this is fish number 2, take number 2, and fish number 1 after a hook pull right at the net, and it's like a bar of ice. It's gone 17 pounds, and it's just a Drayton classic. Look at that. Right then, made an absolute mess of my rods. They're both tangled up now, so I'm going to have to redo those, but let's hope this session gets better, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Welcome to the channel, and if you're new, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff.
That morning we awoke to a bright new day. I'd spent the majority of the night recasting rods, topping up my spots and trying to force a bite. It seemed like solid bags were really doing the trick, although my hook to land ratio at the time wasn't great. From 3 bites I'd had, in relatively quick succession, I'd landed 1 fish. A buoy about 20 yards to the front of me, just off to the left, was the main culprit. Despite fishing away from it and having clutches locked up on both reels, the fish still managed to kite round it, each time shedding my hook in the process. Luckily for me, I'd managed to get my end tackle back both times. Despite the sun beating down on us, the wind had well and truly picked up and was gusting at over 20 miles an hour. It was absolutely Baltic. After the little sleep we'd allowed ourselves, we began the process of getting fresh rigs back out onto the spot and rebaiting before we allowed ourselves to get the bacon on. Looking around the lake, no one seemed to be hitting off, aside from the two lads that were further up the boards from myself. They were clearly on the fish and absolutely hauling. After having spoken to them, they were also heavily baiting and fishing 2 rods on the spot, which was exactly the same tactics as our own. Undeterred, we continued the same procedure over and over again. Phone alarms set for 40-minute intervals, fresh bags on the spot each time the alarm went off, followed by a few spoms to top it up. It was absolutely relentless, and eventually, the lack of sleep from the previous night, all the spotting and recasting, Betty and Jamie were starting to show signs of fatigue. Coupled with constant live streams of cricket, which is enough to put anyone to sleep, and loads of blanking, it wasn't long before they were nowhere to be seen. They were eventually discovered in their sleeping bags having a little siesta. This presented Al and myself with the perfect time to have a catch up. We'd not seen each other since fishing through Storm Arwen back in November, and we both had a lot to talk about with regards to our own fishing ventures that we've been undertaking on our own.
Fingers crossed one of us will show you a fish at some point. I mean,
like I said, well, you got that picture here.
I got the picture, yeah, but I wish it would. I wish it would be there. I was awake anyway, I just don't know how I didn't realise. So Al had one last night, and it is a proper pig. Got a proper gut on it. I can't believe it didn't go over 20 looking at it. It looks round. It's like it's like a football.
Well, I've been 0 of those scales, but yeah, so 10 forward.
Yeah, fair one. So yeah, we're on 2 for 5 bites now, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's atrocious for this place. I really think this is our. I think we're just. This is our Achilles heel. This place. The thing is, I don't know if I want to come back again this year. I don't want to have to come back again. But I've also got that bit between my teeth now where I'm like, I need to come back and show that I'm not an absolute moron when it comes to fishing this place. Because normally we come down, like we'll come once a year really, won't we? Most years.
Usually in the summer.
Usually in the summer with Jamie and my brother, and we'll have a social, and like it's very rare that we catch less than double-figure fish each, isn't it? Like a bad session would be like 12, 13 fish for us, and the last 2 sessions have been absolutely appalling. Like I'd have taken 13 fish over these last 2 sessions the way it's been.
Yeah.
Genuinely, until I got that first fish last night, I was in such foul mood. Like, because nothing had happened, I was like, I don't want to be here, and I was just going through the motions, spotting, and I was like, I'm still going to put the effort in because I want to turn around.
Spotted at half past 9 at night.
Yeah, I was spotting right up until about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, eventually the fish started showing, but it's hard work, isn't it? Right, I'm going to get your kettle.
The gusts relented for the rest of the afternoon. It wasn't only the anglers taking refuge from the biting winds. The moorhens, ducks and pigeons all chose to take shelter on the boards, away from the choppy water and out of the way of the swaying, creaking trees. The only ones not avoiding the gales were the swans, making the most of that late winter sun. They basked on the surfboard in the middle of the reservoir, like an ornament taking centre stage in the middle of a garden pond. A call of nature that couldn't be satisfied from the peg, and being frustrated at the lack of action, Jamie decided to reel in and go for a walk up towards the dam wall. On his return, he said it looked like the majority of the action was coming from the top corner of the lake. Here, the wind was having least effect, the sun was warming the shallow water towards the boathouse, and he said he'd seen a few fish show. Had it not been so busy in that corner with day ticket anglers, who'd spotted what we'd failed to see earlier on in the day, we may have been tempted to take some rods down there. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be the case. Bloodied, but unbowed with the stubbornness of a mule, we continued with what we'd had relative success on the previous night. It occurred to us all that the majority of our bites were going to come at night. As the fish moved out from their sun lounging spots during the day, they started to have a look around for food, and we believed that's when we'd be able to trip them up. This being said, the best thing we could think of to prepare was to look at those spots, feed them up with more bait, so that when the fish did arrive, they wouldn't be leaving.
Well guys, it's taken more time than anyone reasonable would expect at Drayton, but we've got our second fish and it's just gone over 16, 17 pounds, something like that. Yeah, it came to a solid bag on the right hand rod on that spot that I've been baiting, and yeah, it was on a trimmed down Kraken pop in a solid bag, just set up as if it was a wafter. So yeah, brilliant fish, very welcome. I'm not even sure what time it is, to be perfectly honest. Sometime in the early hours of the morning. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to turn my nose up at this one, because I was starting to think it was never going to happen. So absolutely buzzing with that. Yeah, it's not been an easy session by any means, but I've been up throughout the night spotting and just trying to make it happen, and that's exactly what we've done. Despite everything being against us, it would seem, on this session, it's definitely my Achilles heel at the moment, this Drayton. Never struggled at a water like this, where traditionally in the past, if we've had less than like 12, 13, 14 fish in a session, it's been classed as a bad session, whereas I seem to be fighting for the scraps at the moment. So we'll get this fish back, and yeah, she can live to tell another tale, and hopefully we can get another one in the not too distant future, I dare say. But we appear to finally be on the fish. This one's come literally no more than 20 minutes after the last fish that you saw, and it's not a bad fish, this one. They are like blocks of ice though. I did hear a fish crash out over my spot, and yeah, not long afterwards, the left-hand rod was away. This one was on a butyric acid and pineapple pop-up trimmed down to be a wafter inside a bag, and this was a left-hand rod, so on the same spot. So the fish definitely moving in. It's going to be lively because I've just been resting him in the net, but it's not a bad fish, this one, in terms of looks. It's going to go again. Just let's have a look at you. There we go, have a look at that. I reckon another nice mid-double fish. It's been resting in the net because I've been getting the other rod. Well, I've got the solid bag back out that it was on. So incredibly lively, so probably my own fault, but I wanted to yeah, take advantage of the fish while they were feeding, and it is beating me up for the privilege. So there you go, have a look at that one. Not a bad bit of Drayton fish, that. Definitely had worse fish, and this is definitely on the nicer side. Lovely winter colours, and yeah, it's coming up about 1:45 now, so let's hope we can get another one before the shoal moves off, because it looks like I'm on them. Yeah, there you go, have a look at that. The hard work and the spotting. Jesus, it's so stiff. The hard work and spotting throughout the night is paying off. So we'll get her back because she's really angry. Right then, so
Yeah, I thought you'd take your photograph.
someone want to explain what the hell's just happened and why both of you are in the picture?
Well, basically, we don't know whose fish this is. After, I don't know, wiping out 3 rods.
Yeah.
Both of mine, one of yours.
Possibly 4.
Possibly 4 rods, we don't know. We might have ruined somebody's session across the lake. We both fished identical rigs, both German rigs, both with a 12mm pineapple pop-up on. And obviously with such a tangle, all the lines and everything, we couldn't work out whose was whose, so here we are with half a fish each, I guess. I don't know. Nobody wants to claim it.
We're too polite.
Exactly. Well, I've already had one, and
one thing's for sure, it's definitely not Jamie.
It's definitely not Jamie's. I've already had one, but he doesn't. So it's just good to see a fish on the bank anyway. So.
Yeah.
And it was dealt with safely, so let's get it back.
Let's see the other side quickly before you. Let's see the other side of it before you put it back.
Turn it around, spin it around.
Can you do the other side lighthouse?
Is it a bit? Is it a bit cold?
Hang on, who's showing you the side though? Or are you both showing it?
So Alan's taking the other side now.
We're having a side each.
Right, okay. Make sure it's 50-50.
Nice looking fish.
I mean, I think Alan's got the better side.
I think, mate, have you got any Yeah, hold it up a bit more. Yeah, there you go.
Beauty.
Who's close to the
That's a
camera?
nice fish, that. Right. So, whose fish was it then?
I'll probably go to Emily again.
Not 100% sure, but definitely mine.
So, what's your reasoning behind it?
Just because I was a little slow getting into it, so
Maybe we need to arrange an online debate.
that's why it went into Lance's line.
I think, do you think you need to have some sort of like celebrity boxing match to sell this?
Yeah, I mean, if that's what the fans want.
Give it to them.
Yeah.
Al, whose fish is it?
Oh, it's definitely mine.
How come?
I was already playing the fish for 2 minutes before his rod went off.
I think I'd have to side on. I'd have to side with my teammate on this. I think.
After the events the previous night still on everyone's mind, neither Alan or Betty could agree on whose fish it rightfully was. With the arrival of morning and McDonald's still serving breakfast, this signalled the end of the session, but not before one last bizarre twist of events was to occur. As we began to pack down, the only things left out were the rods. As Betty began to reel in his final rod, he hit a snag. After a bit of persuasion, he managed to free it. As he reeled in, it felt as if something was dragging behind the hook. Upon surfacing, he managed to latch onto a trailer. Now this wasn't a normal trailer, it was a grebe that had become entangled in someone else's line, who had obviously snapped off or at some point become snagged. Unfortunately, with the line wrapped around it, the bird had drowned. Whilst amusing, as it was the last thing anyone would expect to surface, and it gave him a shock, this also relays an important lesson for all anglers out there. Discarding line on the bank or pulling for a snap is a real danger to the fish and the wildlife that inhabit the lakes we take enjoyment from. Snapping off isn't always avoidable, yes, but where possible speak to the bailiffs of the lake you're fishing, or if it's safe to do so, try to retrieve the end tackle yourself. That way, we minimise the impact we have on the environment and its residents that we take enjoyment from. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please remember to hit that subscribe button, like one of your rods screaming off so you can access more Carpy content that's uploaded weekly.